Professor, Department of ISE. This video is to give brief introduction about File Structures Laboratory. Third program is all about implementing record structure, where we are storing variable length records. Here also we are implementing pack, unpack, modify and search onto a variable length records.
Let us take a look at the third program. Third program is to read and write student objects with variable length records using some record structure. We will be implementing pack, unpack, modify and search methods. For this, we will be using two files, so we are using two file pointers, fp1 and fp2. Initially, number of records is initialized to 0. N will give you the number of records. Name of the file is stored in fname. For student information, we are going to create a class called as student. Here we have three fields: USN, name and branch. Along with that, we have four functions: pack, unpack, display and search. Coming to your main function, we are creating a student object or declaring a student object. Next, we are going to enter the name of the file. This, in case we have a previous copy of the same file, we are just going to truncate the contents, that is, delete the contents which were previously present. Now, in your infinite loop, we are just giving the multiple choices what we have in our program. So, we have insert, display, search and modify. The user is asked to enter a choice. Depending on the choice of the user, a different operation will be performed. Coming to your switch case, depending on your choice, we are going to do either insertion, display or search. In case 1, it is going to be your insert operation. So, in order to access your file, first we need to open a link between your file and your program, which is done using your open function. So, we are opening the file in append mode. As you are inserting a new record, the number of records will be incremented to 1. So, n is incremented to n++. Next, we are going to call our pack function. So, when you go to your pack function is to read the data which is present, which is given by the user, and we are going to make it into a record. So, for that, first we enter the USN, name and branch. We are going to make it into a record by copying the contents to a buffer. In your buffer, first we are going to copy the USN. We are going to separate it using a delimiter, then the name, then another delimiter, followed by the branch. Since you are passing the variable a as 1, we are going to write the buffer contents to your file 1. When you are doing modification, since you have a variable length record, you may have to replace the previous contents with new contents. For that, you are using a secondary file fp2, which we will discuss later. Coming to your display function is basically a read operation. So, you are going to open the connection in read mode. After that, you are going to read one record at a time from your file and store it into your buffer. Then you are going to do a unpack operation. Unpack operation is to separate your fields which are there in your record. Now, your buffer contains all the three, that is your USN, name and your branch. We need to separate the fields and display it onto the screen. To do that, we are using a string token function. In your string token function, we are going to read till the first delimiter and display the USN. Next delimiter, we are going to display the name, then we will be displaying the branch. So, this is done for all the records in your file. So, if you have 5 records, all the 5 records will be displayed onto the screen. Next operation is search. We are going to do a search based on a USN. So, first you are entering the key what you want to look for. We are going to open the file in your read mode. Now, whenever you want to do a modification, since they are variable length records, we cannot actually replace the same record with a new one because of differences in length. For that purpose, we are going to use a secondary file called as out.txt. Now, in order to first do the search, we are going to read one record from your file, store it into the buffer. Then you are going to separate the USN from that particular record. After separating, you are going to compare if it is the search key what we are looking for. If it matches, we are going to give a message saying record found, and we are going to display it onto the screen by using unpack. Next, choice is taken for modification purpose. If the user wants to modify, he can choose yes, otherwise he can choose no. So for modification, we are going to call pack on to. When you call pack on to, the new record whatever you are going to choose, that will be written to your second file, as you can see in your pack function. So you are passing the value of a as 2 in this case. So when you give a as 2, it will execute the else part. The contents of the buffer will be returned to your second file instead of the first file. Coming back, now after you write one record, the remaining records are still in your file 1. So we need to make sure that all those records are copied to your second file. So until you reach the end of the file, you are copying the contents of your file to a buffer. From buffer, you are going to write it to the second file. This when you are doing modification. After doing the modification, you are going to remove your original file because the contents are still old. So you are going to rename the new file into your original file. So this in case of modification. In case if you choose no for modification, you are simply going to remove the out.txt because there is no modification. The other case is if there is not a match between your USN and the key. When there is no match between your USN and the key, you simply copy the contents of your buffer to file 2. Once you reach the end of your file, if you have not found the record, it is just going to give a message saying record not found, and we are going to close the links to your files. So this is your third program. Let us look at the output of your third program. So this is your third program for variable length records. So let us execute the program. It is asking for a file name. So let me give pg2.txt. Let us try display. So you don't have any contents in your file, so there is no content. Let us enter one record. Let me insert one more. So I have 2 records in my file. Let me display. So it is displaying both the records. Let us do a search. So if I let us say I'm searching for 1 GB, it does not exist. It is going to say record not found. When I do a search and modify on 1 GB 01, so that record exists. So it is displaying the contents. If we want to modify, let us say I am giving USN name branch. So now let us display the contents. So as you can see, the modified records will be displayed onto the screen. Now let us go back and check our text file. So I gave pg2.txt. So as you can see, this is a variable length record. Each record is of different length. So the new record what I modified was 1GB02 IDSR. So that is present in your text file. So since you have variable length records, padding will not be added. So this is your output for the third program.